The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Herron. It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists tonight. First up, we've got the president of Eagle Imports and the founder of Walk the Talk America, focusing on mental health to reduce firearms death in the United States. First timer here, Mike Sedini. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely glad to have you here, man. And a man of many careers, editor, and the producer of This Week in Guns. Please welcome Kenny Ortega. What's up, Kenny?
Hey, how's it going?
Glad to have both you guys here. And, you know, why not just get right into it? But before we do, let's talk about the Patriot Patch Company. Always making good patches. I know most people in the firearms industry or who like guns are patch addicts, and Patriot Patch Company is helping out with that. PatriotPatch.co. Their Patch of the Month Club is really, truly something that I look forward to every month. Get an envelope in the mail, open it up, and there's a patch and a sticker, and sometimes there's even two patches like in November. So go check it out, PatriotPatch.co. First story, police chief in Washington says his officers won't enforce new gun laws. This comes to us from KXLY.com. And, you know, Washington just passed all that crazy I-639, I-639, which is an infringement of the Second Amendment, clearly, and even apparently infringes on Washington's Constitution, which I think is kind of interesting. But the Republic Police of Washington chief, Lauren Culp, said the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed as long as I am chief of police. No Republic police officer will infringe on citizens' rights to keep and bear arms, period, exclamation point. I think that's a great thing. One little distinction that I think is interesting here is often we see sheriffs do that. In Colorado, when we passed stuff in 2013, all of our sheriffs, or the majority of our sheriffs, came out and said, this is ridiculous. There's no way we can enforce this. It's an infringement and we're not going to do it. Police chiefs, on the other hand, are different. They usually go in lockstep with the mayor, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason for that is sheriffs are elected, police chiefs are appointed. This is a police chief. He has made this stand. And Mike, let's get right into it. What are your thoughts here?
Well, obviously we're all gun guys. We all believe in our rights. This is actually interesting that this has come up because a buddy of mine is dealing with this red flag law in Washington right now. And he actually had to enforce it on his own father. So it's one of those things where I think they all need to be finessed a little bit. And I think that could start from within our own industry, our own people, maybe helping write some of these things, because there are times when these do need to be enforced. So it's a little tricky.
Yeah, for sure. I-639, I know there's so many parts to it, and a lot of them are, in my opinion, truly bad. But Kenny, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think that is great because, I mean, if you look at I-639, it turns a 1022 into an assault rifle.
Yes.
You know, there's so many more regulations and hoops that you have to jump through. And the fact that this, like you said, chief, which is one thing that I was going to touch on too, it's unusual to see a chief doing this. But yeah, just seeing that this chief is willing to stand up, regardless of what, you know, political appointment he received, you know, he's willing to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. I mean, that's huge. And hopefully other chiefs and sheriffs in Washington will go ahead and follow suit.
Yes, definitely. I guess this is the night of Washington. Republic Washington considers becoming a 2A sanctuary city to fend off new gun laws. And is this the same place, Republic?
Yep, same place.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, they're considering becoming a sanctuary city. I'm not sure exactly what that status gives them or whatever, but they want to become a sanctuary city to shield residents from state-controlled gun laws that were approved by voters. Their mayor said they began discussing the idea to prevent this law, I-639, that goes into effect January 1st. And they said that they've had a lot of support for this. So I also wonder if other smaller counties and things like that will start to do this stuff as well. Kenny, what do you think?
Well, I think we're starting to see, some pushback finally in government from the various gun control measures that have been taking hold in different areas. And I think people are finally getting fed up and saying, no, you know what, this is not the way we need to go. We need to do something that's sensible, but this isn't it. And we're not going to go ahead and enforce these half measures that aren't really going to do anything.
And it does seem like the mayor and the police chief are definitely on the same page. Mike?
Yeah, I agree with what Kenny just said. They don't make sense. The actual minutia, when you get into the details of what it is, that's the tricky part. I don't know. I just say that I didn't know you could just declare yourself a sanctuary city. I think that's kind of fascinating.
I agree. And I actually did look a little bit to kind of figure out what that was and what that meant. And I wasn't able to come up with any solid answers. So I don't even want to speculate too much, but isn't it similar to a lot of places have declared themselves sanctuary cities for refugees and things like that? I wonder if it's a very similar process.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. I mean, Kenny, maybe you know something about it that we don't?
No, I would say go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I do think I just wonder what the process is. Like, is it just a declaration from an official in charge, or is there a formal process? I don't know.
No, it's just basically them saying that they're not going to go ahead and enforce the laws as they're put forth. Same thing with, I just moved back to California. A lot of areas here in California, they refuse to enforce any illegal immigration laws. They will not turn over somebody who's here illegally to federal law enforcement. They just kick them loose and say, that's, if they catch them, fine, but we're not going to do anything to help them get out of here.
Wow. Pretty crazy. Moving to the Good Samaritan files, we have a Good Samaritan saves Dallas police officer while others just stand around and film the incident. So I always talk about the bystander effect, and that occurs when the presence of others discourages an individual from intervening in an emergency situation. And whether it's a psychological fear of doing the wrong thing, or people, just judging us for whatever reason. So there's a Dallas police officer on the ground getting attacked by a bad guy. And there's a bunch of people literally standing around recording with a phone. So the good guy, the bystander, the Good Samaritan, he actually comes by, he's driving by, he sees it, he gets out, he asks the officer what he needs. The officer says, grab his arms. He grabs his arms, they get the guy under control, and then they hold him until more officers show up. This is awesome. And this is just breaking out of that world star crowd, that I can't even really describe it, but I think we all even kind of have it just a little bit. You don't want to get involved. You don't want to be late to whatever you're going to. But I think it's important to break out of that personally. Kenny, what do you think?
No, I agree. There's too many people that just stand around. They want to go ahead and get the next YouTube video that can go viral, or catch a cop doing something wrong. And they don't realize this is, potentially a life that could be lost. If that suspect manages to get a hold of his gun or gets his taser, then he can get his gun or just beat him to death. And they just are willing to stand around and do nothing. And so many people in society today are willing to stand around and do nothing. It's despicable.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I saw a video last week at the California fires where someone was yelling, oh my God, as they were filming the fires and they were driving through it. So I think that's just the way our society is this day. My whole thing is I'm either helping or I'm getting far away because I feel like it's getting worse, but yeah.
Yeah, and I talk about this a lot, this exact thing. I teach medical classes all over the country, and this is one of those things that I talk about. I'm like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy recording with your phone? Do you want to be the person walking around with your hands on your head, not knowing exactly what you're going to, not knowing what you're doing at all? Or do you want to be someone who's there actually providing assistance, providing value to the situation? And I think if people just make that decision today, it helps them react in the appropriate way tomorrow. But this guy could have been hurt, man. He could have ended up dead, but he decided that, he was going to do what he was going to do. And apparently the officer was very appreciative, which I can completely imagine. And it was a good ending for everybody, but the stupid guy on PCP.
Yeah, no doubt.
Quick Trip Chain is looking to hire hybrid clerks / security guards in the Tulsa area. So they put out some job postings, and basically what they're doing is looking for overnight clerks that carry guns on the job and kind of double as security. It's a $35 an hour job, and it is to protect the location and those in it. They've trialed the concept in Wichita, Kansas, and it has already seen success. I think this is pretty dang cool. It makes actually a lot of sense to me. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. That was one of the articles that I was looking at earlier, and I thought that makes a lot of sense. I kind of like associate it with the teachers who are armed and know how to handle themselves. Same kind of concept. I know that freaks people out, but I love it. I love security guards and clerks being the same person.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, it's like being a citizen and carrying concealed. It's like kind of the exact same thing. Kenny?
Yeah, I hope that this is a program they stick with, honestly. It's a good thing if you can go ahead and act as a deterrent and be prepared to respond if the threat does arise. I just hope that they don't end up doing like most other companies do, where it's a necessary evil where they're going to go ahead and run it for a while and then pull the program, which means that the problem is just going to come back. And then they'll realize that they have the problem back. So they'll go ahead and start it up again. And it just becomes this whole seesaw back and forth of protection, non-protection. If they're going to do it, I hope they have the conviction to stick with it.
Yeah. And if we look at this quick trip as a microcosm of kind of the United States, what we say as gun people very often is more guns equals less crime, because, gun-free zones that lures people in. And that's not what we want to see. Gun-free zones make easy targets for bad people. And we suggest that when more people carry firearms, people are less likely to just randomly choose people for either property crimes or violent crimes or anything like that. And this is just a microcosm of that. They actually say in the article, our employees like it, customers really like it, and we're seeing all kinds of security and crime-related incidents just plummet. Customers really like it that we're trying something that's making a difference. I think that's pretty great.
Oh, definitely. I'm pretty sure that the would-be criminals are going to look at Quick Trip and see that they're armed, so they're going to go to racetrack down the road instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry to racetrack, but that's how it is. Next story. Study says that 85% of Utah gun deaths are suicides. This was pretty interesting, and they throw around a couple terms in here. I mean, homicide is illegal, but they refer to a lot of this as homicides. But is it really against the law to commit suicide? I'm not sure. So some of those things are a little bit interesting in the wording of them. But apparently it's a very, very large number. About 79% of Utahns under 18 who died from a homicide died at the hands of a family member. 74% of female homicide victims in that time were killed by an intimate partner or family member. And 85% of gun deaths in Utah are from suicide. Mike, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you to kind of just talk about this and your thoughts on the numbers and just the whole thing in general.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Obviously working with Walk the Talk America, I've been dealing in the mental health side of things a lot, and suicide mitigation is one of our biggest, one of our most important initiatives. It took me a while to wrap my brain around the importance of that. But if you get rid of 60% of the gun deaths that are suicide, you're going to take that gun death number down, tremendously. I'm not surprised. Utah, there's a lot of guns in Utah, and that's the efficient way to do yourself in if you're going to go that route. So.
Yeah, and they do talk about that. They say that guns are, the most effective way that people are using, or the most effective.
Yeah,
that sounds like an awful way to phrase that, but I believe it's quoted in the article.
Yeah, it's a tough one to talk about and try to be delicate, but 85%, it's got an 85% success rate when you do it that way. So it's important to put it down.
It also brings me to, maybe another thing is, the people that try suffocation and stuff like that, when it doesn't work and they end up in a vegetative state or something like that, is that better for these numbers or worse? Or I don't know. I know it seems incredibly insensitive, but these are kind of the things that I try to think about to put myself outside my own echo chamber. And Mike, do you have thoughts on that?
I would say that I know that this is a tough one to answer because I don't know all the ins and outs of suicide. I mean, it's a permanent solution, so that's why they gravitate towards that one, right? And it's just so it gets lumped into ours. But as far as like suffocation and all those things, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, stand in front of a train, that's going to 100% probably do it as well.
Definitely. What is Walk the Talk?
Walk Talk America is the nonprofit organization that I started that basically bridges the gap between the mental health industry and the firearms industry. So,
and how do you bridge that gap?
Well, how I bridge that gap is actually working with them and reaching out to them as opposed to just kind of throwing my hands up or saying, hey, it's another crazy person with a gun. We can get into it. You can send me down a rabbit hole talking to this one about this one, but we're basically putting our efforts and energy in towards the things that we know could mitigate suicide and gun violence that don't have anything to do with legislation. And I wanted to work with those guys and say, hey, look, they don't like the stigma that we put on them when it comes to, basically owning a firearm and mental illness. Less than 5% of people that actually suffer from mental illness will do something violent to somebody else. They'll usually do it to themselves, or they will be a victim of violence because people don't understand what's going on. So that's basically what Walk Talk America is doing.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's actually very cool. So there's another story here. Facebook is using AI to identify potential suicide users. Before I go to that, Kenny, what are your thoughts on the Utah gun deaths? 85% of them being suicides.
Well, I think we got an issue that's twofold here. You talked about other methods of suicide, and I think that what makes those a little bit less successful is the fact that there's more time involved. And from your medical background, you understand time is everything. So if somebody has more time to get to someone before they expire, now they can go ahead and do something about it. So that's number one. I think that can also tie in with one of the initiatives that Mike's organization has, where he's working with Gun Vault to go ahead and try to create centers where there can be places where people who know they're in a dark place, who feel like they might hurt themselves, can go ahead and get their firearms locked up voluntarily in a way that they can get them back with no stigma to them, and that follows them permanently. Unlike going to a mental health professional that may cause them to lose their gun rights, this is something that they can go ahead and self-identify as someone. Hey, I'm not right. I need to work some things out. Let me get these things away from me so I'm not tempted by them. And I think that's another way that time can be bought for those people to go ahead and maybe get themselves straightened out so that they don't reach that ultimate conclusion.
Definitely. So Facebook using AI, basically just scanning all of the messages and video and things that are going on and looking for keywords, key phrases, things like that. And then a human being will review that when the automated algorithm flags something. And Facebook will automatically send them messages such as, "Are you okay?" or "Can I help?" And then the person who reviews the data or the flag or whatever it happens to be, they can call first responders and things like that. I'm going to hold off on my opinions on this one because I want to hear you guys first. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Big Brother? I don't know. That's the first thing that comes to mind. It's a tough one once again, because you got to think like that's great that their initiative is to try to save lives. But then again, what if it makes a mistake? What if I'm having a bad day? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't necessarily equate them all to suicide. That's all.
Yeah, completely. Kenny?
Yeah, I have trouble trusting an organization like Facebook where, literally there's a story that came out just a few hours ago about, a child bride was auctioned off on there and they missed it. They failed to find, a 16-year-old girl who was auctioning off herself, her hand in marriage to the highest bidder. If they can't go ahead and find something as blatant as that, how are they going to go ahead and figure out that somebody is potentially on the verge of suicide?
How much did she go for?
You know what? I didn't read the whole article. I couldn't tell you. So,
but it is Big Brother. This is Orwellian. Because Facebook, I'm sorry, it's become a monopoly. They have more users than just about anything else in the universe. A lot of people use Facebook every single day. And when I say a lot of people, I mean billions use Facebook every single day. And now things like this, you can't even opt out of the scans. And I am not okay with that. But
yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead, man.
Having a bad day. Like when I was going through my divorce and I'd come home from court, sometimes I might have a face that.
Right. It's exactly it. I don't know. I posted about a muzzle device last night, and that would probably flag somebody for potential violence. But really, it was all tongue in cheek. But damn, this is not acceptable. I never want more government, but I almost wonder, when does Facebook become too powerful? And by that point, is it too far gone?
Yeah, no doubt. Some of the memes I like, they'd probably send somebody out to kill me.
Right, exactly. All right, more Washington news. Would-be car thief shot by car owner. The details are not incredibly important here. I just like to kind of discuss this situation. In Colorado, you cannot defend property with lethal force. You cannot employ lethal force to defend property. You can't employ lethal force to defend your pets. You can only employ lethal force to defend someone's life or to prevent death or serious bodily harm to yourself or another person. And this person, they were getting their car stolen. They were upset. They were angry. And then they shot the person stealing their car. And I understand, like, your car, you don't want to have to go through the insurance and calling the police and all the craziness. But at the same time, I personally would never shoot at someone stealing my car, just unless, I had a family member in it or something like that. And then even then it would be really tough. Kenny, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the matter is under investigation. The only thing that I could see that may be justifiable is, he happened to walk up and see this guy trying to steal his car, breaking into his car. If the guy turned on him with whatever implement he was using to try to get in, that may be justifiable if he had something that was something that he could have been stabbed with or something. That's
Totally.
the only way I could see that was justifiable. Otherwise, it's a bad shoot.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. 100% on that one. I got to be being attacked. That's it. I got to feel like my life's in danger. Just someone walking at me isn't going to do it. So,
yeah, 100%. And here's the thing. I mean, if they're driving the car towards you, would we consider ourselves in, threat of death or serious bodily harm? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. If they break the window out with a crowbar and then turn around and start walking towards you with a crowbar, sure, I can totally see that. Jeopardy, ability, and opportunity. Those are the three things you need to, to basically prove to have good self-defense shoot here in Colorado. And this kind of stuff is tough. Property is not worth a person's life, even a criminal, in my opinion. Next story, negligent discharge while working on a gun kills a New York wife and mother. Comes to us from the New York Times, so you can imagine how the article is swayed. But he was just cleaning his gun. Something happened. 35-year-old middle school science teacher, and it discharged, struck his wife. She died, and this family's there to pick up the pieces. Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, these are always the tough stories you hear. I've been being around guns for so long. I have never seen a negligent discharge. To me, I still wonder how it happens. I get it. I know it happens, and I'm sure other people can say I've seen it. I just still haven't seen it. I don't know. Doesn't sound right. Something's wrong.
Yeah, it's just, I don't even understand it. I mean, if it's taken the slide off or something like that, I don't understand how you don't visually and not just, safety theater. I mean, look and actually see and process the information when you're checking it. I don't understand how that doesn't happen, but we hear these stories way too often. Kenny, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's an education piece. We need to start figuring out a way to, just because someone has a right, those rights need to be exercised responsibly. And we need to figure out how can we go ahead and educate people, because there's too many stories like this of things happening that are completely avoidable. It's under investigation. I mean, the husband and wife situation like that, you're always going to look at, well, was it actually an accident? Was it intentional? Mm-hmm. But either way, I mean, there's kids involved that have lost their mom. Now they're going to lose their dad potentially to, criminal negligence charge at the very least, if not worse. Mm-hmm. And it's also avoidable. For safety rules, they have to be followed. And how can we go ahead and get those 4 safety rules taught to the masses and not just to our own echo chamber?
Agree. And, here's the even tougher part is if this was an accident, this guy, probably the worst day of his entire life, probably the worst month of his entire life. But, what does happen? This is New York. So he's going to Saratoga Springs, New York, to be exact. He's going to have to deal with all the legal repercussions of these things. And on the show, we always recommend second call defense, and they do cover stuff like this. It's another one of those really tough things to talk about, but something bad happened, someone died, and now this guy, his future is in jeopardy. If it is 100% accidental, second call defense would take care of that and provide attorneys and things so that he can get on with his life and get back to rebuilding the pieces that he shattered. But I think that kind of coverage is just an aspect of second call defense that's not always talked about. They do cover negligent discharges and things like that as far as criminal defense and civil and all that kind of good stuff. You can find out more at firearmsradio.tv/SCD. if you are curious or you thought about self-defense insurance, things like that. Coming to us from the Illinois files, Illinois man charged with gun and drug charges only has to pay a $500 bail for his release. Well, I think I know why things are so bad in Illinois. It's because stuff like this. Basically, the car got pulled over. This guy was in the back seat. The gun was under the driver's side seat in a place where it was not reachable by the driver. So they say that it was the guy in the back seat who happens to be this guy. Also had 20 ecstasy pills on him. I don't, whatever. I don't really care. But these are a couple different crimes. Wasn't supposed to have the gun. He is charged with Class X felony armed violence, felony aggravated unlawful use of a weapon in a vehicle, felony possession of a firearm with defaced serial number, and felony possession of ecstasy or an analog. This is terrible. This clearly not a great guy, not a guy that should be running around. All these charges, everything that happened, and he puts down a deposit of $500 and walks. Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, also running to be mayor of Chicago, explained her approach to criminal justice. Our criminal justice efforts have been focused on trying to be sure that we reallocate resources for those who are accused of violent crimes and try to be sure that those who are accused of nonviolent crimes do not spend the time between their arrest and the disposition of their cases in jail. Well, this guy was charged with a Class 10 felony called armed violence, so I'm not really exactly sure what's going on there. Kenny?
Yeah, there's too many stories like this of, just serial criminals who get a slap on the wrist. This guy probably won't show up to court. He'll end up getting picked up on a warrant later on because he knows if he shows up in court, he's going to go to jail. So why do that? I mean, stay out for as long as you can. And more than likely, he's going to commit other crimes in the interim. And all of this could have been dealt with if they just went ahead and remanded him to custody and sentenced him with a sufficient bail to keep him locked up, or at least to make his life difficult, make him want to come back to make sure that he doesn't lose out on that money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, $500. That's a pretty cheap get out of jail free card.
Oh, for sure.
Mike?
Yeah, it makes me wonder if he snitched on somebody. That's the only thing I could think of. I mean, you'd be surprised what you can get out of when you snitch. I feel, Eagle Imports. We have a warehouse in New Jersey. We had a UPS guy go rogue one time, and these guns ended up in the back in Newark being sold out of a car. We offered our services. We wanted to testify, throw the book at these guys, and they got off because they snitched on somebody bigger. So, yeah.
Oh, that was you guys. I remember that story.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was, when that type of stuff happens, we got a letter saying our services weren't needed. They appreciated us offering, but that's how it kind of went down. And that's what it was. They go to the bigger fish to fry. So I don't know the whole details of this one, but it sounds like someone snitched.
Wow. Parkland deputy that failed to enter the school in Parkland, Scott Peterson, fails to show up for investigative panel. And this is an investigative panel where basically they're going to ask him why he didn't go in. His attorney did show up. He said that he had filed to get their subpoena removed or whatever it happens to be. And it is kind of interesting. Towards the bottom of the article, it says Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said he was a cop in name only. If he'd been a real cop, he would have run in there with that gun. Scott Peterson has often defended his actions, questioning how people could say that he did nothing. He said he's cut that day up 1,000 ways in a million different what if scenarios, but the bottom line is I was there to protect and I lost 17. I understand the humanity of both sides in this. I understand the emotions of both sides in this. I'm not 100% sure what they would have got out of this panel, but this is just a tough situation. I mean, this guy, his life is pretty much ruined for a very long time. Mike, what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I can't, like you said, the humanity on both sides. It makes you wonder on a big picture thing, right? How many people join the military thinking that they're just going to be in the military and not actually see combat, but then end up having to see combat? If you put yourself in that position, though, I think you have a responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, and I'd say there's a small percentage of people who are like, oh, I just joined to be a cook or whatever. I can't believe I'm getting deployed. But yeah, this is a tough one for me. Kenny?
Well, one of my former careers, I was a cop. So I wore the badge for 7 years. And, gunshots are something that cops run to. And it's unlike most other people in society where they're going to run from gunshots or danger in general. Police officers have a mentality where they're there to protect and they're there to go ahead and stop whatever threat there is. There's been too many people, though, because of affirmative action and other things they're basically pensioners. They're there to go ahead and work a job, get a good pension, and walk away. And I strongly suspect that's what Scott Peterson is or was, because he walked away from this situation, and no matter how horrible he feels, he didn't feel so bad that he turned down the $96,000 a year pension that he's receiving to go ahead and sit there and live his life while others can't.
Wow. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see where that goes. I almost just wonder if they're just continuing to drag him through the mud. I wonder what this panel that he was going to speak in front of, what the purpose of it was. I mean, at some point, he's just got to be like, okay, enough is enough. I get it. I'm worthless. Everyone hates me. How much longer, I wonder, how much more new information are they going to get? Or is this just a feel-good thing where they destroy him just a little bit more so that they themselves feel a little bit more whole?
No, I'm sure this has to do with finding as much culpability that they can place on him so that they have to pay out less in civil damages as a result and put it on him instead of on the city.
There you go. It always comes down to money.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri Town disbands its police department, says no cops for you. The police chief basically got a phone call and was told to lay off his entire staff immediately. No explanation was given, nor plans to staff the police department beyond the chief. This actually happened here in Colorado, Green Mountain Falls. It's actually even mentioned in this article, but I remember it. There was 4 members of the police force that they quit because of a dispute with the mayor, and the local sheriff's department just basically absorbs all those calls and things like that. So it's not like it's just the Wild West or anything. But it does seem like, sometimes people don't prioritize police officers, and you kind of have to wonder what's going on there when that happens. Kenny, thoughts?
Well, I remember here in California when something like this happened years ago with Compton. So Compton actually disbanded their police department because of rampant corruption there. And the officers that were worthwhile were absorbed by the LA County Sheriff's Department. LA County Sheriffs took over the patrol duties for that area. But there's still a gap that occurs. And, that Sheriff's Department has to figure out how they're going to go ahead and staff the area that they didn't have the manpower for before. Mm-hmm. What procedures are they going to put in place for taking care of the hot spots and things of that nature? So even though there's somebody that can take over, there's still a period of time where things are going to be a mess, and numbers are going to climb as a result, and people are going to get hurt. People are going to become victims because of the fact that they don't have a plan put in place to go ahead and seamlessly make the transition. And it's unfortunate that people are going to have to suffer in the interim.
Really agree. Mike, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Kenny here. I too, I don't know if you read the book, but Once Upon a Time in Compton is a great book from 2 of the Compton police officers that were on the job for a very long time, but that got caught up in the Rampart whole division thing. So I agree with what Kenny says exactly.
What was that book called?
Once Upon a Time in Compton. It's kind of a neat book. It's the 2 guys that basically ran Compton as cops. They were everything from the Biggie, the Tupac, all the way down to just the NWA, Eazy-E, like the beginning. They were there for it all.
I want to read that. That sounds pretty great.
Excellent.
That's awesome. Next story comes to us from, you guessed it, Seattle. Seattle mayor calls cops leaving for nearby agencies, mall cops. The mayor of Seattle wildly miscalculated her pitch at the Seattle Police Officers Guild meeting when she referred to officers from the Port of Seattle Police Department as mall cops. She made the insulting comparison at a union meeting. She tried to convince a standing room only audience of Seattle police that its officers were not, in fact, leaving in droves. And the officers actually are. It's disappointing and sad. One officer told the news station, "I've worked here my entire career, never thought of leaving until I retired. Now it seems there's nothing to stay for." A lot of these cops go into greener pastures and things like that. And, in Seattle, it kind of makes sense. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, there's obviously a leadership problem there where when you have this many officers leaving, there's policy issues. There's, lack of faith in the officers, basically they're not allowed to do their jobs. There's a lot of different internal struggles that are going on that are causing them to leave. And you could see why, when this is her mentality. Well, if they leave, they're mall cops. Well, maybe they just want to be able to go somewhere where they can do their job and not be, constrained in the ways that you're constraining them. Why don't you look internally? When so many people are making that move, you have to look at yourself, because obviously there's something going wrong with you.
Yeah, and that's why they're leaving. Their hands are tied. They can't do their jobs because of choices made by the mayor's office. Mike?
Yeah. Hey, listen, mall cops still provide a service and protect people. I mean, I got real cops as mall cops. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, Paul Bart was a hero. Oh, the next story comes to us from the I'm Offended segment, and this does offend me. The Department of Justice is preparing to rule that bump stocks or machine guns fall under the NFA. Truth About Guns came out with this, said this already happened. It didn't happen. They retracted. This comes to us from Bearing Arms, and it just talks a little bit more about it. The reason I bring it up is because I have a couple bump fire stocks, and when they make this, it basically makes me a criminal. I'm a little bit unsure. It seems ridiculous that something that I paid money for, that I paid my own hard-earned money for, can just be taken away by a declaration or by the government declaring eminent domain over my possessions. Clearly that concept exists in the world, but it seems wrong to me. I feel like they should buy them, grandfather them, whatever it happens to be. Mike, you have any?
Well, yeah, it's funny because bump stocks gets brought up here. I'm in Vegas right now. I live in Vegas, so that's like that's a key. That's the buzzword around here, and it just amazes me that there's this whole movement against something that's been around for 10 years that no one cared about, no one even talked about. I'm in the gun industry, and no one would talk about them.
They suck.
Yeah, exactly. So,
it is. I hate them. I just don't want the government to tell me I can't have them. Kenny?
Yeah, one of my rifles has a TACCON 3MR trigger, which under the proposed rulings that they were looking at before, that was included. So by ownership of that, I would be a felon. Yeah, the bump stock is stupid again, in my opinion, just like yours, but we should still have the right to own it. I mean, hell, the Yugo was stupid too. The smart car was stupid, but people still bought them. They didn't ban them because of they're dangerous vehicles. But this is just something that one person misused, and everybody has to pay the price for it. And it's if the neighbor's kid does something wrong, you don't beat your kid just because he lives on the same street. And that's what
right.
that's what the government's doing here.
Yep.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, Mike. They've existed forever. No one knew about them, cared about them, whatever. One guy. I'm unaware of any other criminals using bump fire stocks. One guy. And Kenny, you just mentioned TACCON 3MR. I've got 3 of those. And so now we're talking, instead of the $400 in bump stocks that I have, now we're talking $1,800 of stuff that I have. And yeah, ridiculous. I don't even.
One guy turns thousands into felons. One guy's.
Yeah, and I mean the crime is heinous. I can only imagine how much worse it would have been had he not been using bump fire stocks.
Seriously.
Yeah.
If he had used just a 3 to 9 scope, it would have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Bump fire stocks are the best thing that he could have used. Because it made him incredibly inaccurate and ineffective.
Yep.
California Congressman Swallowwell thinks nukes can be used to quell resistance to gun confiscation. So he was having a Twitter battle, which, you know what? Apparently now the government officials, they're allowed to have Twitter battles and be douchebags on Twitter. Guy named @JohnCardillo said, "Make no mistake, Democrats want to eradicate the Second Amendment ban and seize all guns and have all power rest with the state." Wait. Sorry, that's the wrong one. One guy basically said, "It'll be a war if you try." Oh, here it is. @Rambo Biggs. So basically, Rep Swalwell wants a war because that's what you would get. You're out of your effing mind if you think I'll give up my rights and give the government all the power. To which Representative Eric Swallowwell said, "And it would be a short war, my friend. The government has nukes. Too many of them, but they're legit." Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I've got an opinion about this, but Kenny, I want to start with yours.
Yeah, well, this is a representative from Northern California. I mean, no surprise there. Who he wants to initiate a buyback program, and it's like $15 billion or something that he wants to fund it with to go ahead and buy back all AR-15s, take AR-15s away from the people, and that's where all of this began. And sorry, but you don't have the the right to do that because the Second Amendment says otherwise. Heller has already used common use as a an arbiter of whether it's legit or not, and the AR-15 is definitely in common use. So it's something that will easily be overturned by the Supreme Court if we can get them to hear the case. But this guy is he's grandstanding and trying to go ahead and stir up controversy. And the suspicion is that he's looking to make a presidential run in 2020. So, there's no such thing as bad press, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have, well, I was going to say something otherwise, but anyway, we have DeLeon, who made an idiot of himself with the ghost gun and, a 30 magazine clip. And look, he's, president of the Senate here now. So he got rewarded for his stupidity. Somehow I think that the same thing is going to happen with Swalwell.
Dang. Mike, what are your thoughts on Representative Swalwell?
I like what you're doing there.
I'm glad someone's picking it up.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I actually sent him a tweet because every time someone says something stupid on Twitter now, I try to get them involved and walk the talk to use their platform to help mental health and things like that. But you never like it when a government official is threatening you with nukes, threatening his own people with nukes. I would say he's got to go, but this is the world we live in today. It's the people that stop and film. It's all these things. This is what we do now. We threaten each other. We have a president that likes Twitter, likes to say stuff. And I don't know. Times are changing. I guess we got to change with them.
Yeah, totally agree. My thoughts on this are, first off, the American government, the United States government, I would find it very unlikely that they're ever going to nuke their own citizens on their own soil. It just seems counterproductive to me. I'm like, if he would have threatened with like tanks and F-18s or things of that nature, I'd have been like, okay, that's legit. I mean, that's a good argument. We'll meet you in the rice fields. That's cool. But for just to go to nukes, it just shows that he's a ridiculous idiot, a useless idiot, I guess is what I hear him referred to often.
He's probably partnered up with Ocasio.
There you go. Fish live in water. Never mind. I'm not even going to start. Ammo mental health background check bill passes in Detroit. We talked about this on this show, and I was like, this is so dumb. It's never going to pass. But Reg Davis calls for support of this bill that requires a mental health background check on purchases of ammunition, excessive and extravagant taxes on ammunition purchases, things like that. And sure enough, the Detroit City Council, awesome people that they are, they passed the bullet bill resolution unanimously. Now it has one more place to go. It has to go to Detroit City Council's formal session. And wow, this is it's idiocracy happening right in front of my very eyes. Mike, have you heard about this? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I was looking at that. That is, first of all, that whole title in that article just throws fuel on the fire of the stigma that goes with mental health. As if people that battle mental illness somehow are going to get a hold of bullets and do something stupid with them. It's a horrible, horrible idea. It's one of those things I hope that the mental health organizations that I work with really attack stuff like that, because that's just bad. It's bad all around.
It really is. I mean, like, what does this mental health background check consist of, and who is the arbiter of this test, and what are the parameters? Of course, none of that's actually here. They just put it into place, and then that's someone else's problem to figure out how it all works. Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I haven't seen the wording of it, but based on the bits of information that I have seen about it, it's very arbitrary and capricious. And as you've said before, it's a Jim Crow law. I mean, this is going to go ahead and disenfranchise people with lesser means from protecting themselves. It's going to make them unable to go ahead and get the protection they need, especially in an area like Detroit where crime is rampant. I mean, we've heard so many good stories of concealed carriers, single moms and such out of Detroit that have protected themselves because they have the ability to carry. And now he's going to go ahead and make it difficult and unreachable, unattainable for them to do so because of the extra hoops they're going to go through, and people are going to die as a result. He's not going to save anyone. He's going to be killing people.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Yeah, this is exactly it. His constituents, the people who probably need a firearm to defend their lives more than anyone else, now will not be able to afford bullets because it's going to be that urban. The poor people are affected by this more than anything else. People who can't afford the stuff in the first place, now they're going to have all these extra impediments to exercising their naturally given rights. So congratulations, Reggie Reg, you're a dumbass.
Yeah. One more thing to add on that is the greatest indicator of violence is previous violence. It's not mental health diagnosis.
No.
So,
it's so silly. And this mental health background check says what? Like, in your opinion, Mike, what would preclude on a mental health background check, which I don't even know what that is, but what would preclude someone from buying ammunition?
In my opinion, it'd have to be previous violence, that the person has done something before, whether that's domestic violence or anything like that. I mean, there's studies that I've read that have dealt with violence and firearms. There's a couple things. It's the previous violence, obviously, and then there's like multiple DUIs. There's all these things that are indicators, but it definitely isn't a mental health diagnosis. It's unless someone flat out says, I'm going to buy this ammunition and go down the street and kill that person, even if they didn't mean it, that would be the only red flag. Yeah. Not, I suffer from depression or anxiety.
Yeah. Domestic violence already precludes people from owning firearms.
Yeah, exactly.
Kenny.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you stop and think about it, ammunition is categorized by the federal government as a firearm. So, felons can't be in possession of it because it's considered a firearm. So that being the case, it should fall under the purview of the Second Amendment, in which case he is denying people their Second Amendment rights. So it has now become a civil rights issue.
And I think, honestly, I talked about this last time. I was like, this will go to the Supreme Court if it catches fire, if it passes someday. I think that it will honestly go to the Supreme Court, and I'll double down on that now because you're exactly right. Civil rights issue. All right, let's move into the full auto news segment real quick. The story that I picked: Wisconsin companies giving all their employees a handgun for Christmas. I think that is pretty dang awesome. This comes to us from thehill.com, and pretty simple. The company called Ben Shot sells novelty glassware with bullets embedded. I actually have a couple of these. And for us now, we have an entire armed staff. I think that's pretty good. All 16 full-time employees will be able to pick their choice of revolver. Okay, well, I'm a little bit less in, but I'm still pretty in. Kenny, what do you think?
I think it's great. You don't see anything like this anymore. And it used to be that firearms were given as gifts all the time. And it's become less and less. So any company that's out there doing it and, making it public for other companies to see where maybe they may follow suit, I'm all for it. Depending on the revolver, hey, if they're giving out Chiappa Rhinos, I'll take it.
That's true. Yeah. If that's the revolver I can pick, heck yeah. Mike, what do you think here?
I think it's great that companies are giving away guns, and if they ever want to find another company that actually can provide said guns, and I'm in. There
you go. That Versa shirt right there.
Yeah, exactly. Eagle Imports is down for that. I love that idea. It's kind of what Kenny said. Like, if you don't want the gun, you gift it to somebody in your family that wants the gun. It's a great gift. Guns keep value. I mean, there's other reasons to have guns besides just what the the media makes you think they are used for. So I like that idea.
And the best part of this entire article, it says that they say that at least 2 employees initially declined the gift, but have reconsidered after taking a gun safety course that the company required before giving out the guns. Well done. Awesome stuff all around. And guess what? Boom. 2 people didn't want those guns, had a little bit of education. Now they want the firearms. Education, key to everything.
Yep.
Mike, what was the story that you wanted to pick out of here?
No, the ninja story.
Yes. The headline is Japanese city short on ninjas is paying $85,000 a year for ninja services.
Yeah, I wish I would have known about that as a kid because I could have taken a whole different life path. I mean, who doesn't want to be a ninja? Get paid $85K a year.
Exactly. But here's what I don't understand. What exactly are ninja shortages? I haven't been able to find it in the article, but Like what service do ninjas provide?
I don't know, stealthy movements, cool ass outfits, uniforms,
Navy boots,
yeah, sword play. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
Smoke bombs.
smoke bombs, exactly. And it looks like they don't actually have it. It's ninja performers. So this is awesome. Anyone, if you want to make what 95K a year or 85K a year, you should move to Japanese. You should move to Japan. Easy for me to say, and become a ninja. I could become a clown ninja, I think, and I probably only make like I don't know $3 a day, and they would pay it in moldy bread. But I think I've got a chance.
You know, I actually studied ninjutsu for a couple years with over at Frank Dukes' studio in Studio City years ago.
Damn.
You were at Frank Dukes' studio?
Yeah, he had a dojo in Studio City and then moved to North Hollywood. But yeah, I studied there for a couple of years.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty awesome. All right. Kenny the Ninja. I'm in. All right. Well, that'll do it for the stories. But before we go, Mike, tell us about everything that you do and where people can find all that stuff online.
Basically, eagleimportsinc.com, eagleimports.com. Basically, import guns, firearms from all over the world. Bursa, Grand Power, Metro Arms, Vidity Arms. There's plenty of different options there for everybody. And then Walk the Talk America, WTTA.org, or Walk the Talk US on all of the social media platforms where we are bridging the gap between mental illness, the mental health industry, and the firearms industry. We're finally talking. So.
Very cool, man. I love that. And appreciate you being on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I love it. So anytime.
Glad to have you. Now, Kenny, what the heck have you been up to?
Man, I've been up to moving, looking for a job, editing podcasts, producing podcast, trying to find all my recording gear so I could get on here tonight because we originally had somebody else scheduled and she wasn't able to, carry through on that. So I had to jump in, not last minute, but still jump in. Yeah. And, just staying busy, trying to get it all done, trying to put my life back together here and make something usable of a life here in California, as difficult as that may be. So, yeah,
totally understand that, man. But if anyone can do it, you'll knock it out of the park. So, and now we've got one extra good guy in California fighting that fight.
That's
right. Well, thank you.
All right. That is awesome stuff, guys. That'll do it for the show. Definitely check out Patriot Patch Company. Go to patriotpatch.co. Join the Patch of the Month Club. I think that's the easiest way to get addicted to patches is to do that. It's like $15 a month. And that gets you just a surprise envelope in the mail every month. Also, if you're interested in self-defense insurance, and if you're not, you should read a little bit more about it because it's something that I wouldn't leave the house without just because we train so much with firearms. I train in medical. There's no way that I'm going to leave my legal future into the unknown. So you can find out more about that at firearmsradio.tv/SCD. And as I always say, This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and is a production of the Firearms Radio Network. We'll see you next week.